Hello everybody, so this is the start to my reading vlog for the Trick or Treat-a-thon, the Monster Mash edition. And so at this point I have actually completed a prompt, even though I haven't really vlogged. So since uploading my TBR on Wednesday, I've been listening to The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. Been listening to this. Yeah, my bedroom's a mess and I'm trying to hide it. Been listening to this. Work has just been unpacking books and shelving books and shifting books. I don't know if I mentioned this, at least not in a while. My library is closed for renovations, and so we've been mostly working the branches, and we were actually working in a temporary space for a while, but we're now out of the temporary space, and now it's time to move back in. Our opening date has gotten pushed back already, so I'm not pleased about that. But in all the unpacking and shifting, I've been listening to audiobooks, and I did start and complete The Graveyard Book. I didn't love it. I've liked it for the majority of it. It's about this boy named Bod. His name is Nobody, and he basically survives an attack on his family. His family was basically targeted, and they all died, and he lived while the killer was hunting him, because the killer noticed that he had gotten away when he was a baby. He had gone into the cemetery, and the ghosts there took him in, sheltered him from this killer, and raised him in the cemetery. So we see all of his stories and him growing up into like 15, 16 years old, until it finally crescendos with him confronting the guy that killed his family. I loved all the stories of him like growing up in the cemetery, like hearing about all the different things that he had gotten into, like the different kind of monsters, like ghouls. I suspect that Silas is a vampire, but Silas, who is the Nobody's guardian, or one of his guardians rather, they never actually specify what he is, just that he's not alive or dead. I suspect that he's supposed to be a vampire. So we see all these different creatures come together in the raising of Nobody. So I really, really liked that. It's just when Nobody confronts his family's killer, I felt that kind of fell flat, and I kind of wish there was like more of a build up and we saw more backstory there. So I enjoyed it, but didn't love it, and so I rated it 3.5 stars out of 5. But this completed one of the prompts. Now I'm forgetting which prompt. I'm gonna go into the living room. The Creature of the Black Lagoon, which is the prompt with all the different monsters. So I finished the Graveyard Book yesterday, and today I had work, and so again, all the shifting on the shelving. I started listening to The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein. This is probably like an 8 or 10 hour audiobook, and I'm a couple hours in, and right now Elizabeth is this ward of the Frankensteins, and she grew up as Victor's friend, and Victor is currently missing. Like, he gone off to school and she hasn't heard from him in a while, so her and a different ward of the family goes to try to find Victor, and that's where I've left off, is Elizabeth trying to find Victor Frankenstein and where he's like meant to go to school. I'm not super into it, at least not yet. I'm not the biggest fan of Elizabeth. Like, I totally get what her motive is right now. She basically had this really tough home life until the Frankensteins basically bought her to be Victor's friend. And she is terrified of being sent back to her original family because she doesn't want to go back into that living situation again, because she was abused verbally and mentally, and it was like physically, it was a bad situation for her, and she doesn't want to go back, and I get that. So she admits to being very manipulative. I kind of want something else to root for her, though. You know what I'm saying? I'm not loving her quite yet. And that's all of a intro that I have for you guys, and I'm going to continue reading, and I'll check in with you guys later. Well, hello everybody. So it has been a little while since I last checked in. I just got my Old Navy order, so I'm actually getting that sorted, and I figured I'd talk to you guys in the meantime. I've been working a lot. The library is trying to get set up to reopen. We've been closed for the last 6 months for renovations, and now we're trying to move everything back in. So I've just been shelving and shifting and shelving so much. So I just been listening to audiobooks as I work. And so, not books. I didn't listen to multiple books. I did finish 2 since I last checked in with you guys, but I listened to one, and that was The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein. That one was for Frankenstein and the Bride of Frankenstein, and if it didn't count for at least 2 prompts, I would not have finished it. I did not like it. I absolutely didn't. Mechanically, there was nothing wrong with it. Like, it flowed fine. I didn't like any of the characters. I didn't think any of the characters had depth, that they were all very cut and dry. There was nothing interesting about any of them, like not even Elizabeth. It also took half the book for it to finally really get started. Like I had said before, basically at the beginning of the book, Elizabeth goes to Germany to try to find Victor Frankenstein. She's a ward of the Frankenstein family, and she's always counted on Victor to basically save her from poverty, right? And because he hasn't been in contact in a long while, she's terrified that he's lost interest in her, and now she's like at risk of being made to leave the family. So she goes to try to find him to convince him that, oh yeah, you totally still need me. And it took half the book before she finally finds him, and things finally start to get interesting. And it probably didn't help that I didn't like the original Frankenstein. That's probably why I didn't like this one. Full disclosure, Elizabeth and Victor obviously does not have a very good relationship. In fact, I would say that it mirrors what I would imagine some domestic violence situations would be, especially towards the end. He's constantly telling her, you belong to me and nobody else. So I feel like that could be triggering for people if you're not looking out for it. So definitely watch out for that. So I forget which prompt, but there was a prompt where there was a toxic relationship. That definitely counts. If that's a different prompt altogether, then it counts for 3. Now I'm curious, where is it? This doesn't help me. When I did the video, all I did was write down the prompt in my choice so I could quickly go through making my TBR video. Dang it, that's not helpful to me at all. But there is one that's basically a toxic relationship. And I was going to read Bridge of Souls for that one, but this one in theory could count for that as well. I'm still going to try to read Bridge of Souls, but in theory that could also count for it as well if that's actually a different prompt altogether, because I know each prompt technically has like 3 choices, you know? But at the very least, it's Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein, because for both of those was Read a Frankenstein retelling. But yeah, I didn't like any of the characters. I didn't really care about any of the characters. In fact, I was hoping for a different ending, and I was very dissatisfied for the ending as well. Like I said, mechanically, there was nothing wrong with it. It just wasn't my cup of tea. But unfortunately, that means I'm going to rate it 1 out of 5 stars. I will never reread this. And I'm actually debating about getting rid of this signed arc, because this isn't actually, the copy I have is a signed arc, and I don't even want it. By the way, my husband is playing with his group, so if you overhear him, that's what that is. The second one was for Dracula, because I remember specifically picking Heartstoppers Volume 2 for Dracula because it had LGBTQ+ rep. And at least this one turned out way better than The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein. Oh, which by the way, it's meant to... Sorry, I'm getting vaguely distracted for a second. It was very predictable as well. The title obviously gives it away that even though Elizabeth is a ward of the family, she eventually marries into the family, because the title right there, like, why are you giving away so much with the title right there? Regardless, go back to Heartstopper. Heartstopper Volume 2 was incredibly cute. It picks up from where we left off in Volume 1. But that had a very satisfactory ending. I thought that was really, really cute. And I rated that a full 5 stars. I really want to read Volume 3 now. So, with these 2 books, we knocked out 3 prompts out of the park. So at this point, this landed on something wet. That's probably the condensation from my sody. I don't like that. Anyways, Dracula Creature of the Black Lagoon, because that was the graveyard book, because that had different creatures in it. Frankenstein and the Bride of Frankenstein. Ooh, that could be my... Sorry, I actually saw my little note for the lottery. I know for a fact I have that audiobook as well. That could be the next audiobook that I start, because I actually finished The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein while I was at work today, and now I don't have an audiobook to start, just to continue with these prompts. I can do the lottery and just stick the 7 spiritual laws of success to the side. All right, so I think that's what I'm going to start on next. And yeah, I'm rambling, and that's all I have for right now. Good morning, everybody. As you can tell, I'm currently waiting for my little shuttle bus to get to work this morning. And since I've checked in, I actually started and finished a couple of things. One is the lottery. I had to think about that for a full second. The Lottery and 7 Other Stories by Shirley Jackson. And honestly, I loved the lottery. I thought that was very creepy and very much what I wanted to read. But the rest of them were more stories about uncomfortable, like, social situations, which I guess could be creepy, but I ended up just feeling uncomfortable, especially the one that like focused on racism. And of course that is the point. That was the point of those stories, but it wasn't what I was looking for. I wanted something scary and creepy. So overall, I rated this 3 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. But we finished that prompt. That prompt, I don't know what it's called offhand, but it's like read something that's like over 20, 30 years old. And considering Shirley Jackson passed in the 60s, this counts. And I started and finished Bridge of Souls by Victoria Schwab. I actually had started this at work. Sorry if you see me looking around, keep an eye out for my bus. I started it at work with every expectation of listening to Roseblood the next day, but I can't find Roseblood anywhere as an audiobook. I mean, I was able to find it on Audible, but I don't want to pay for it. So I ended up listening to Bridge of Souls through Hoopla. So I finished that, and I have Roseblood with me right now. I don't think it's going to be quite enough for me to work. I mean, yes, absolutely work, but I don't think it's quite enough for me to actually read at work today. But I still brought Roseblood. It's in my little book sleeve. And hopefully there might be a little bit of time before work starts for me to at least start a chapter. Just a little something. It is the 28th, so I do only have a couple days left of this readathon, so hopefully I'll get to it. I actually really enjoyed Bridge of Souls for the most part, but I feel like this third one, ooh, that train is loud. Oh, there it is, I can see it. No wonder it's loud. I feel like this third book, so Bridge of Souls is the third book in the series. And it follows Cassidy, who almost died, and because she almost died, she has the ability to flip between the, like, behind the veil and outside of the veil, and her main job is to help spirits cross over. But in this one, basically, she had crossed over enough times where she caught the attention of an emissary of death, and basically the emissary's job is to bring her back. Like, oh, you lived when you shouldn't have. We now have to, like, take you back. And so the entire book is her and her friends trying to save herself from getting pulled by this emissary, which you think would be very action-packed, and at times it was. But I felt like this one was more of a filler book. I haven't fully decided on a rating yet, but I'm thinking like 3.5 stars. It could be because I listened to it as an audiobook and not read it, because I loved the other two. But I think because I read them and didn't listen to them, because that is an entirely different experience altogether. But I still didn't love it like I loved the other two. Is it terrible to say, like, yes, it's a middle grade book, but I feel like it would have been awesome had somebody, like, died at the end? Yeah, I think somebody should have died. As of now, 3.5 out of 5 stars. And this one counts for, like, the person with the superpowers, because she does technically have a superpower. And there is that toxic relationship with her and her best friend. Why am I forgetting his name? It's a little bit better in this one, actually. Like, it kind of resolves itself for a tiny bit, but still not the greatest relationship. But now those 2 prompts are done. I think I only have like 3 other books, Roseblood and those 2 graphic novels. And hopefully I'll actually get the graphic novels done. I don't know about Roseblood. Roseblood is definitely, what's the word I'm looking for? The Hail Mary for sure. Well, hello everybody. I was just editing this vlog and I realized I never got around to filming an outro. I did finish the rest of the prompts. Was it by the seat of my pants? Yes. Was I a day or 2 over the deadline for the readathon? Like, did I technically finish November 1st or November 2nd? Yeah. Am I still counting all of it? Absolutely. Especially since I was late in starting and I still was within like 30 days. So it is what it is. We're just doing our best, okay? And you're going to have to excuse this. It's very cold in my apartment right now. So at this point, we had done Dracula with Heartstopper, Creature of the Black Lagoon with the Graveyard Book, right? The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein for both Frankenstein prompts. Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein. And I think at that point... Oh, and The Invisible Man with the Bridge of Souls. And that one, The Invisible Man was... I literally just see you. Featuring a character with special powers. Our main character has the ability to go between the veil and not the veil, and that's her special power. So that one counts. Dracula, Creature of the Black Lagoon, both Frankensteins and The Invisible Man. Oh, and The Lottery, which was the Mummy, right? Because, read something that's older than me, clearly. So at this point, we had done 6 prompts, and we were trying to, get the last minute ones in before the deadline. I really wanted to read Roseblood for Fan of the Opera. That did not happen. That was not happening. Listening to an audiobook all day at work, and that's what I was doing. That's the only way I was able to crank these out, especially in the minimum amount of time, because I was listening to audiobooks all day and I didn't want to read when I got home. So Roseblood just didn't end up happening. I did read something else, but I'll get into that in a second. I had 2 graphic novels by the end. Are You Listening by Tilly Walden and Thirsty Mermaids, which I don't have the author in front of me. Cat Lee. Thirsty Mermaids I read for the Wolfman, and that prompt was where a character goes through transformation. And I specifically did that. Oh, these mermaids, they do some magic in order to turn human so they can go drinking. And so that was the little transformation there. There was some personality development as well. I found it especially interesting how the story touched on gender dysphoria, which is very cool, because basically they changed to go drinking, and the day after they pass out from drinking, they realize that they can't easily change back. They were lucky enough to find a human that was compassionate towards them. This human didn't believe their story right away, but showed them some compassion, and they were able to find jobs and just live their lives while they figure out what to do. But one of them felt so out of place in their skin, right? And it caused this mermaid such visible distress that I found the comparison really interesting. I was a little disappointed in the ending, though, when things kind of resolved and they were able to go home. How they were able to, I felt, was kind of just thrown in just to end the story. So I didn't appreciate that. But overall, still very interesting, and I enjoyed it. I rated it 3 out of 5 stars because honestly, it was good. Just didn't love it. Oh, I lie. I rated it 3.5 stars, and I'm pretty sure the half star was for that little conversation about gender dysphoria. So enjoy that. And Are You Listening by Tilly Walden. I thought it was kind of weird. I'm not going to lie. I kind of was a little lost. That story followed these 2 people, B and Lou. They're going on this road trip together. And actually, I think is it B? It doesn't say in the little synopsis on Goodreads. But basically, one of them is hitchhiking, and so the other one picks them up. And as they're traveling cross country, one's going home, but one's actually escaping from their past. As they're traveling, they find this cat, rescue this cat, and in their effort to bring it home, they start to get followed by these really creepy men. And as the chase continues, the world becomes super distorted and kind of a little hard to follow. Basically, they learned that they have to trust each other in order to make it out of the situation that they're in. It was atmospheric, it was sad, but I found myself getting a little lost. And not gonna lie, it felt a little unfinished, but I think that was done with purpose, you know? So it was okay. I rated it 3 out of 5 stars. And that I read for the Raven, and that's because they're both clearly not in great mental places, but especially one of them, the one that's escaping from their past, trigger warning, they experience sexual assault, and that's what they're escaping from. And as you can imagine, they're dealing with PTSD and anxiety throughout this trip. So the Raven and the Wolfman are now knocked out of the park. So when I realized I wasn't going to be able to read Roseblood, I was like, all right, I need to find something now and find something quick, and preferably an audiobook so I can listen to that at 2 times speed while I'm shelving. I did a quick Google search of like YA books with I want to say it's three-way love triangle, a 3-way. That is not the word I was looking for. But I was like, oh, I want to try to find a YA book with a love triangle because I feel like YA books are a little lighter. I'll be able to get through it faster. So I specifically Google searched YA books with love triangles. And this one came up. So this is Love by Elizabeth Lim. That came up in the Google search. I'm like, oh, excellent. I can get that through Hoopla, so we're going to borrow it. And I borrowed it and I listened to it entirely. And it barely has the love triangle. I'm still going to count it because I read it with that intention and I was lied to, okay? But basically the story is, what if Cinderella never tried on the glass slipper and the prince didn't find her the night of the ball? So while he's continuing on looking for her, the assistant to the king, he feels that the prince shouldn't be marrying this commoner. He should marry this person who has social influence, like this princess from another kingdom, and this would like help set the kingdom for life with this political tie. And so this assistant really tries to get the prince to get involved with this person. And so if we're looking for the love triangle, that's where it is. But I don't think it should really count as that because this princess was never truly involved. She never got around to meeting the prince. She was a little offended that he wasn't interested in her. And that storyline kind of just like falls flat. And then the story just continues with that assistant trying to do what he thinks is best for the kingdom. We got a suggestion of a love triangle in this. And like I said, I'm still counting it because Google led me astray, and it was okay. Honestly, if I wasn't so pressed for time to try to fulfill a prompt, I wouldn't have read this. I would have given up on it. Like I was a little, the Duke. I finally see my nose. Excuse me. The Duke, who is basically the king's second hand. I wish that he was more dastardly as a villain because I originally thought Lady Tremaine was going to be the villain, but no, she is introduced as a villain, but not the villain. And it's really the Duke that later gets introduced as the story's villain, which was interesting, but I kind of wanted a little bit more from him if he was going to be the villain. So yeah, believable, but I wanted just a smidge more. If push comes to shove, honestly, there wasn't anything wrong with it. It wasn't my cup of tea. It wasn't what I was expecting. It wasn't what I wanted, especially when I thought it was going to be this intense love triangle. It's not the fault of the book, but I had these standards that just weren't met. And so in the end, I rated this 2 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. So that's it. That's everything that I read for this readathon. And honestly, this was such a rush at the end because I still wanted to do all the typical Halloween stuff that I usually do. Like I wanted to carve pumpkins, which I did. I was actually really pleased with how they came out. Roasted the seeds from those pumpkins, you know? And I also had to work on Halloween. So this was truly a rush to the finish. And I'm just glad that we're here, you know? I'm just glad it's here and done. So now that this is done, I can now prep for this Christmas readathon that I'm participating in. So keep an eye out for that TBR. And I hope to also participate in 12 Days of Christmas. I usually do. And again, this is just going to be, well, am I? Will I? Who knows? So I'm going to end it here. I've rambled enough. Let me know down in the comments if you participated. Let me know down in the comments if you read any of these and what are your thoughts on them. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I guess it's ta-ta for now. Bye, guys.